There are individuals who move through life with an internal weight that few ever notice, a quiet heaviness carried behind calm eyes and polite smiles. These are the people who feel invisible not because they lack value or presence, but because life, in subtle and persistent ways, taught them to shrink themselves. Emotional invisibility is not born overnight. It forms slowly through countless small moments when a person's voice wasn't heard, their feelings weren't acknowledged, or their presence was overlooked. Over time, they begin to internalize the idea that blending into the background is safer than standing in the spotlight. This psychological adaptation becomes so ingrained that even when someone genuinely pays attention, they instinctively pull back. There is a deep fear beneath the surface, a fear of taking up space, of being judged, of being dismissed yet again. They live in a world where their existence feels muted, not because they are unimportant, but because their nervous system learned to survive by becoming small. The tragic irony is that many invisible people are among the most observant, empathetic, and emotionally intelligent individuals, but the world rarely gets the chance to see that. Emotional invisibility often begins in childhood, within environments where the child's emotional needs were minimized or met with indifference. This type of neglect is not always deliberate or malicious. Sometimes parents are simply overwhelmed, distant, or emotionally unavailable. A child raised in such conditions learns to adapt by suppressing their needs, believing that expressing emotions leads to disappointment or rejection. They become the quiet observer, the child who sits still, the one who causes no trouble. But beneath this apparent calmness lies a growing void of belief that their emotions burden others. As the child grows, this belief becomes the foundation of their identity. They learn to speak softly, to avoid conflict, to anticipate others' moods and adjust themselves accordingly. Their silence becomes a protective mechanism, but also a prison. The world begins to interact with them as if they are naturally quiet or shy, not realizing that their silence is a survival strategy carefully crafted through years of unmet emotional needs. People who feel invisible are often incredibly perceptive, almost intuitive in their understanding of others. This heightened sensitivity is not accidental. It was forged through years of monitoring emotional environments to stay safe. They learn to read microexpressions, tone shifts, and energy changes with precision, because understanding others was essential for avoiding conflict or disappointment. As adults, this hyper-awareness persists, making them excellent listeners, compassionate friends, and stable companions. But while they excel at understanding others, they struggle with the opposite, the understood themselves. They rarely share their inner world, not because they don't want to, but because they assume no one would care. This emotional imbalance turns them into silent emotional containers for everyone around them. They absorb, support, understand, but receive little in return. Over time, this drains them, deepening their sense of invisibility and reinforcing the belief that their own emotions should remain hidden. For many emotionally invisible individuals, life feels like it's happening behind a glass wall. They can see others, interact with them, even laugh with them, yet there is always a subtle distance. This disconnect is painful because it creates a loneliness that cannot be solved simply by being around people. They yearn to be seen not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, meaningfully. Yet the very mechanisms they develop to cope make it difficult for others to access their deeper self. They don't interrupt, don't raise their voice, don't ask for attention. They move through conversations quietly, often being overshadowed by louder personalities. And the world, busy and self-focused, rarely stops to notice the quiet observers. The person behind the glass watches life unfold like a movie they are not truly part of, longing for a moment when someone pauses, looks deeper, and finally says, "I see you." Invisible people often attract those who take more than they give. Their quietness, kindness, and lack of demands make them appealing to partners and friends who are emotionally self-centered. Over time, they find themselves trapped in relationships where they provide emotional support, stability, and understanding, but receive none of it back. They become the listener, the healer, the peacemaker, the one who adapts. And because they fear conflict or rejection, they rarely express dissatisfaction. The emotional imbalance becomes a cycle. The more invisible they feel, the more they give. The more they give, the more they disappear. These relationships reinforce the belief that their role is to serve, not to be understood. It's not uncommon for an invisible person to end a long relationship and realize painfully that the other person never truly knew them. We live in a world that rewards loudness, confidence, and self-promotion. Social structures often overlook subtlety, quietness, introspection, and depth. People who speak softly are interrupted. People who hesitate are ignored. People who think deeply before speaking are overshadowed. Society often mistakes gentleness for weakness and silence for lack of substance. As a result, invisible individuals receive less recognition in school, at work, and in social groups, not because they lack intelligence or creativity, but because their natural style does not fit the world's increasing demand for extroversion. This constant reinforcement makes them internalize the belief that they are unimportant or forgettable, even when they possess extraordinary strengths the world desperately needs. Despite their struggles, invisible individuals possess remarkable inner strengths. Their ability to observe, empathize, understand subtle emotional dynamics, and remain grounded during chaos makes them incredibly valuable. They often excel in fields requiring deep thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, or analytical precision. Their quiet nature allows them to form meaningful connections with those who genuinely take the time to know them. They are the people who offer comfort without being asked, who understand without explanation, who remain loyal without conditions. Their invisibility does not reflect a lack of worth, it reflects a world too loud to notice the quiet, brilliance standing beside it. One of the most overlooked aspects of emotional invisibility is the overwhelming sense of guilt. Invisible individuals blame themselves for not speaking up, for not being more confident, for not demanding space. They feel guilty for feeling lonely, guilty for wanting attention, guilty for having needs. This guilt becomes an emotional barrier that keeps them silent, reinforcing the cycle of invisibility. They believe that asserting themselves is selfish, that expressing needs will burden others, that taking up space will cause conflict. But this guilt is not the truth. It is a remnant of the emotional neglect they endured. The world never taught them that their needs were valid. Now, as adults, they must learn this truth on their own. Healing emotional invisibility does not begin with shouting or forcing confidence. It begins with small acts of self-recognition. It begins when a person allows themselves to feel without judging their emotions. When they express one opinion without apologizing. When they set one boundary without guilt. When they understand that being seen is not a privilege, it is a human right. Healing is slow, gentle, and layered. It requires rebuilding a sense of identity that was suppressed for years. And it opens the door to relationships where they are valued, heard, and respected. Little by little, the invisible person learns to take up space again, not aggressively, but authentically. People who feel invisible often believe they are forgettable or unimportant, but the truth is the opposite. They are among the deepest souls in existence, carrying emotional universes unseen by most. Their quiet presence brings stability, understanding, and depth to the world around them. Their invisibility is not a reflection of their worth, but a consequence of environments that never learn to appreciate them. This video serves as a reminder: you are not invisible, you were overlooked. You are not insignificant, you were unheard. And you do not have to live in the shadows anymore. Your voice matters. Your emotions matter. Your presence changes the world in ways you cannot yet see. And it is time for the world to finally recognize you.